Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Coffey, market strategist over at TD Ameritrade, to discuss levels to watch in the Nasdaq-100 and what stocks are performing as stocks kind of put a rebound in for this session following the SVB fallout. Alex, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks. So I'm going to take a look at a couple charts here with you. I want to establish some fresh levels to watch in the Nasdaq-100. And then from what you're seeing today on the heat map, what's performing?
Yeah, no doubt. And I want to bring fresh levels, Jill, but it's just been the chart that has remained relevant for the better part of the last 6 months. And we talk about keeping things relatively simple, straightforward, easy to digest. Oftentimes technicals is more about being in the area than it is being exactly precise. And so we've been looking at this chart every couple of weeks for the better part, like I said, of the last 6 months. And it's sort of set up almost like a traffic light, something that we're all familiar with and encounter on a regular basis for sort of those visual cues. But I have 3 price levels laid out here on the NDX of various degrees, equidistance apart, but it all centers around this midpoint right around the 12,000 point line. And that's our yellow indicated line here. And it sort of highlights the fact that we are sort of middle of the range, kind of that slow down, reassess things here. At one point, it indicated a pretty nice rally off the lows of that near 10,500 or so mark, and it also indicated when things were getting a little bit possibly overheated as we got up towards that red line around the 13,500. But in all of the trading action, we keep finding ourselves kind of chopping around these lines, and this yellow line is again acting relevant here around this 12,000 points. So not only is it a big round number that can have that somewhat psychological effect, it's also marking sort of that battleground of, are we going to go back and retest those lows, or are we going to establish a pretty remarkable start to what's been a pretty strong start to the year?
Yep. And let's take a look at the heat map here. Anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, what really stands out to me is we have about 2/3 of the names higher in the NASDAQ, but the ones that are green and really sticking out are those biggest companies. And so this is market cap weighted. The bigger squares or bigger rectangles are going to be indicative of bigger companies by market capitalization. And this is something we've seen and we've talked about in some of the IMX data that we see in terms of retail trader positioning at TD Ameritrade, and the interest that's been picking up, particularly in names like Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon. And I think this was, of course, before some of the banking stuff that we've seen in the last few days, but I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with it. These are companies that have strong market positions and very well capitalized to endure many different market environments.
And finally, Alex, anything that you're seeing on the Nasdaq-100 volatility index, what we call vol-Q, that potentially gives some clues if there's some more range bounds and volatility ahead, or does it suggest things might be smooth sailing? What are you seeing with vol-Q?
This is, to me, the most interesting of all 3 of these charts because it paints such a kind of a question mark of a picture. What I mean by that is you compare it to the recent trading activity. We've certainly seen an elevation over the last few days, and it's quite sharp, and you see that pretty quick spike up. Of course, it's pulling back here a little bit today in lieu of course, the market recovery. But we're nowhere near any of the moments of peak uncertainty of even the last 52 weeks. And so to me, it shows that while there was certainly an uptick in uncertainty, certainly an uptick of that feeling of uneasiness and fear around what's been going on, one, it was quite isolated, it seemed, to some of the more regional banks, also more of the financial sector as a whole. That is not really an area that is exposed in the Nasdaq-100 as much. But even so, it doesn't indicate, at least right now, that there's really that real fear of serious contagion or spillover to the overall equity market.
Yeah, particularly to your point that there is no financial exposure in the Nasdaq-100. Appreciate the insight as always, Alex. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.